All right. Hello, everyone in the U.S. and around the world. Thanks for joining us on today's show. As we continue around the world, we bring you the Israeli national team, which qualified for the very first time for the 2020 Olympics, but will be held in 2021 in Tokyo. What a thrill. Today's guests, our general manager and manager of the Israeli Olympic team, the GM, Peter Kurz, former president of the Israeli Association of Baseball, coach, manager, for many Israeli national teams, a former VP of the European Baseball Federation, which governs baseball in Europe, not to mention the GM of the World Baseball Classic, and on a side note, the pretty face of the Israeli baseball. He is the man behind baseball when it comes to financial, promotional, baseball development. He does it all. Unbelievable. He's always out there. And along with Pete, the manager, which led the team to victory in the Olympic qualifier, Eric Holtz, a college baseball coach for 16 years, a proven international baseball experience, the owner of Game on 13, one of the premier training facilities in New York. By the way, both New Yorkers right now. And I got to say that Eric, I think, might be a little crazy and passionate because he still plays at the age of 54. So joining us from Israel during the evening, let's welcome first my good friend, Peter Kurz. How are you, Peter?
Thank you. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Pete.
All right. And along with in New York, and again, we're all praying for New Yorkers. They've been going through a tough time. Eric Holtz, the manager of the Israeli Olympic team. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great, Pete. Thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you for having, the time, because I know even though we're locked down, there's, I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I'm very busy. I'm not making any money, but I'm real busy. And I'm sure you guys are trying to stay busy as best you can. Here's the first thing I just want to talk about. And let me start with Peter. Peter, I want you to give just a little history of Israeli baseball, because I know the first question to a lot of people is going to be Israeli baseball. I didn't know there was baseball in Israel. I'm sure you get that a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we started baseball here about 35 years ago. Just Jewish American new immigrants who came to visit, to live in Israel. It all started in a kibbutz called Kibbutz Gezer, which is in the middle of the country. They had the first baseball field there. Since then, the baseball has grown, especially the last 10 years or so. We're up over 1,000 kids and adults playing baseball today in Israel. We have national teams that we send overseas to different tournaments. We have an academy, a baseball academy here, which has developed very nicely over the last few years. Nate Fish, one of our players, came to Israel about 7 years ago, was here for 3 years as the national director, really put baseball on the map here in Israel. There was huge growth after that. In this past year, we took two native Israeli guys. They're running the organization now. So the immigrant American is not there now. It's more of the native Israeli who's running this organization in Hebrew, the way it should be run. And a lot of kids are coming on board now, especially being involved in the Olympics. That was a huge bonus for us. We're also building 2 new fields. So together with the Olympics, I thought it was going to be in 3 months, but in a year and 3 months. And together with those 2 new fields, we're really looking to double and triple the number of kids playing baseball in Israel today.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Eric, I know you've been there many times. Talk about some of the things you do when you go to Israel to help the players or coaches, parents, what some of the challenges might be also.
Well, I mean, my history with Israel baseball, just so you know, Pete, starts in 2007, the way Peter and I met. I was drafted as a player coach at 41 years old to play in the one and done Israel Baseball League. Peter mentioned Nate Fish, and Nate got me involved in Maccabi baseball in 2013 as his assistant coach when he was involved with Team USA. And it was then, right after that tournament was over, that Nate decided to stay and basically work for Peter in building baseball in Israel for 3 years. I stayed on and became the head coach of Team USA in the Maccabi games. And then Peter asked if I would take on this responsibility. For me, don't get me wrong, I'm a tremendously passionate guy. I love teaching the game. I love teaching the game the right way. I love being involved with the Olympic team, the national team. But the history of baseball in Israel and the way to grow this sport is to work with the younger kids and to get them involved at an incredibly early age. Peter has two directors there now that are wonderful, that are trying to get baseball added to physical education in the schools in Israel, which are huge. We're donating and sending over a ton of equipment for the kids who don't have it. So any opportunity that I get to be there and I can get to the grassroots level, for me, there's nothing better. I can't tell you that one day goes by where I don't have a kid from Israel sending me videos and asking me to break down a swing or break down a pitching motion or talk about his change-up grip or something like that. And those, things to me, and in building baseball going forward are, some of the bigger things for me.
And that's a great point, especially now on downtime. I'm sure you're getting a lot of videos and a lot of requests. Peter, I want to jump in. I'm going to come back about the players, the youth players, and some of the things you do there. But Peter, when it comes to, you've built an organization. And I know, folks, if you're on Facebook Live, if you have any questions for Peter or Eric, please type them up in the comments section. We'll try to get them in there. To help some national organizations, international organizations. You've built an organization, the finances, the groundworks. Talk about how, what you had to do, because the financial part's important. If you don't have the finances, how to get fields, how to develop the sport. Talk about how a federation, maybe a young federation's listening, that might help them.
I tell you, we don't get much help from we didn't get much help from the government until the last couple of years. So in the beginning, when a new federation is starting out, what's important, I think, is to try to reach out to their constituents overseas. Okay, everybody in Europe, because I know what European baseball is like, because I was the vice president for 4 years. So everybody's got somebody with roots, somebody in the States with roots in Europe. Okay, be it the Czech Republic, or be it Italy, or be it even in some kind of small countries. They know people in America. Reach out to them. Try to tell them what you're interested in doing. Discuss how you're bringing baseball to the youth. That's very important, to bring it to the youth, to bring the youth of your country together with the youth of the United States, to bring them together, to have some kind of roots there, some kind of connection. That's what I've been doing. I've been reaching out a lot to the Jewish community in America. The Jewish community has been very, very supportive of baseball here in Israel. Today, there's probably about half the owners of baseball teams are Jewish. So reaching out to them, certainly when you go forward, you have more success. You're able to get more of attention. Right now, Israel is both in the WBC and in the Olympics. So both those high profile situations help us. To be honest, you also need some luck. I mean, in 2011, MLB came to us and asked us to be in the WBC because they were making a new qualification format. We didn't know anybody. I had no idea who anybody was. There was a guy named Jerry Weinstein. He was a coach for the Maccabi team, for the USA Maccabi team. He had been in Israel the year before, so I turned to him, and he set up a meeting with 3 guys in the States in 2011, with Brad Ausmus, Gabe Kapler, and Sean Green, and that got things rolling. That just got a lot of things rolling. Also in 2007, when Eric was in Israel in 2007, with the IBL, with the professional league, for one summer. That summer was an amazing summer in Israel. It's true that they went bankrupt after that, but a lot of those connections are still there, and we're still utilizing them. You see Eric, 13 years later, is with us as our manager. Nate Fish, who came here, and also a lot of financial support. Financial support was very important, and as well as equipment. Building fields and things like that is also huge, but it's very important to build those coalitions between your country that you're trying to build the federation up and somewhere in the States or in other countries. We're also receiving some support from Japan and from Korea as well. Now that we're reaching out to them, we're being there more. Having been in Korea and Japan 3 years ago with the World Baseball Classic, going to Japan now, we're getting more recognized in international baseball, even though our country is small. We have 7 million people, and that's it. Israel is a very small country relative to every other country. We're the same size as the Dominican Republic. I just wish I had baseball here.
Folks, now that we got more people on Facebook, want to wish everybody in Israel Independence Day. Happy Independence Day to everybody.
Thank you.
Peter, I'm going to jump real quick. Just one more thing about the federation. What are some key aspects of the federation, the hierarchy to be able to, do certain things, whether it's get the finances, the baseball development? What are the keys there?
when you join the federation as a coach, if you have a kid that's playing in the in one of the teams, you rise very quickly in this organization. As long as you want to volunteer, you rise very quickly in this organization. Everybody is on a volunteer basis, except for the general manager, for the CEO, and we have a secretary. But everybody else is here on a voluntary basis. I came in, I guess about 20 years ago when my son was about 10 years old. I brought him to a baseball field. A week later, I was being the assistant coach on the field. 2 weeks later, the coach left, and I was the head coach on the field, even though I hadn't coached baseball at all. 2 months later, he came to me and said, "Listen, I want you to take a national team overseas." This was in 1999.
Wow.
I took a national team overseas, a team of 10-year-olds to the tournament in Holland, and that team actually has 5 guys who are still today, 21 years later, involved in baseball in Israel in different ways. Myself, obviously, Shlomo Lipitz, who's the legendary Shlomo Lipitz, who's our pitcher. He's been pitching on 35 different national teams. Ophir Katz, who's today our head coach of the organization. So that team 21 years ago is still active and involved today in baseball. And that's important because volunteers, people who volunteer, people who want to be active, want to be involved. That's crucial. That's huge. You just give them leeway, let them run, let them do what they want, let them do what they enjoy, and you get all the benefits from it.
Absolutely. Eric, I know you stay in shape. You still play. I'm drinking my fruit juice here. So just, I try to stay in shape best I can every day. There you go. No sugar. This is a no sugar show. Remember that. Eric, one of the things, and Peter understands this also as a coach, one of the difficult parts is, one, trying to get kids to play the game, introduce the game to them. And sometimes that can be fairly easy in some ways because it's kind of an interesting sport, but you're competing against other sports. And 2, you got to keep them. Well, we know if you don't have great coaching, you're not going to keep those kids because they're going to get bored. It happens in the U.S., happens all over the world, especially in practice. So what are you guys doing to attract them? And you mentioned a couple things, the physical education, to get them and to keep them.
So, one of the things that, I've spent a lot of time on, baseball is an incredible platform to teach life. So, one of my biggest things, when people are asking me, how come I'm not hitting well? How come I'm not pitching well? I'll sit down with a family together with their athlete and we'll ask them, I'm not shy if you can't tell. And I'll ask them, how many hours a week are you hitting? You're hitting off a tee, for a half hour a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And the answer would be once. I'm hitting once a week for a half hour. And then I ask them, well, how many hours a week are you playing video games? And the answer normally comes back, an average teenager will play between 12 and 14 hours a week of video games. So my reply to that is, well, you're going to be really great at video games and you're not going to be able to hit a baseball. So at a young age, whatever you have passion for in life, and I don't care what that is, it may not just be athletics, right? If you're interested in engineering, practice it, read about it, learn about it. I'm jealous that today the kids have YouTube. You can learn anything. Absolutely. So, at 54 years old, I'm never satisfied in who I am and what I am. So how can a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old or an 18-year-old kid be satisfied for where they are? I want to get better every day at whether it's being a coach or a father or a husband. So if I'm passionate enough to learn and get better every day, they better be doing something.
What are the biggest challenges there in Israel as far as, the game? Is it game experience? Is it they don't play enough? How much practice? We all know, and studies have shown that you've got to practice. If you don't practice, but you also need game experience. So
Israel and European baseball in general, Peter, has been really interesting to me. And you, listen, you're a Chicago guy. For us, travel baseball, I grew up in the Bronx. I went from the Bronx to Brooklyn, or the Bronx to Queens. That was travel baseball. For these guys to continuously strive to get better, they need to play better competition. They can't just sit there playing themselves every week. So what is travel baseball for them? For them, it's getting on an airplane and traveling internationally. The reps are one part, as again, teaching the coaches. So Peter's got a couple great guys in the program now that are teaching the coaches how to coach and keeping them engaged at a young level, and not taking anything away from volunteer dads. They're awesome. We need them. We need 24-year-old kids who are straight out of the Army, straight out of college, who played in college and played overseas, that can bring some of that knowledge and passion back to those kids. And when you instill that passion into somebody else, then they want to work. Then they want to work harder. They want to get better. From there, then you have the challenge of there's no high school baseball in Israel. So if you're not involved in one of the academies that Peter's talking about, or a national team, there's no other way to get better. The biggest challenge for these kids in Israel, which my hat goes off to them anytime I think about this, 18 years old, they're going into the Army for 3 years.
Yeah.
So when normal 17 and 18-year-old kids are trying to get recruited to go play in college, the Israelis aren't going to start their college career until they're 21-year-old freshmen.
Wow.
So there are several challenges from really, I mean, when you think about it, you know, from a very young age until they're done with their Army tour.
But man, I can see, and Pete, I'm just going to mention, I'm going to jump to you. I just wanted to mention, okay. I can see being in the military, coming back, you know, and even if you're not playing, if you're coaching, well, I can see that as a huge benefit. Bouncing to you, Pete. Go ahead.
One thing we were able to do about 10 years ago when I mentioned that Nate Fish came as the general manager was to bring baseball from being once a week, drop the kids off for 2 hours and leave them, to more of a professional kind of thing, being on a team, practicing at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week in their local areas. In addition to that, having this academy once or twice a week. Today it's twice a week. So guys who are better are practicing 2 or 3 times a week locally. They're practicing twice a week with the academy. They're also practicing on the national team level. So guys are out there today 4, 5, 6 times a week practicing and playing, and that's huge. And as Eric also said, getting professional coaches was also very, very important and very critical. And more professional coaches are coaching here in Israel. It's not everywhere yet. We still have a long ways to go on that. But having more guys come and learning. When Eric comes, every time he comes here, he teaches the coaches how to coach and how to teach, and that's crucial. That's really important. Having the national team guys, our national team players who live in America, who are on independent league teams, on minor league teams, having them come over. Ian Kinsley was just over for a couple of days a few weeks ago. He came over. He did some classes. He did some teaching. He did some training. The guys love it when an ex-major league guy comes over. They can listen to him. They can hear him. They can also email to him and talk to him and everything. You know, as Eric mentioned also, guys are always emailing him, WhatsApping him, whatever. They're there. They're communicating with them. That's important. The whole Israelis don't, like Europeans, they don't grow up with the game. They don't grow up as you know, as year-old kids and 2-year-old kids watching baseball with their parents. In most cases, they come to it at a later age. If they have baseball here on TV, now they have it more with ESPN and all those kind of shows, but you've got it at night. You know, in the middle of the night here in Israel, at 2 o'clock in the morning here in Israel, it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. So a lot of guys are up then watching games. So you have more of a cultural atmosphere of baseball happening in Israel, but it's only been happening the last 5 or 6 years.
You know, Peter, let me jump in if you don't mind. Let me jump in real quick, you know, because we share another person in common, Pete. And Peter found a guy that I could never understand how he fit into Israel baseball, and he's become one of my dearest friends and remains on the staff of Israel baseball, is Richard Kanya, right?
Oh, yeah.
Richard is like a professor. He studies this stuff.
Very good.
And way before I got involved in Israel baseball, Peter, how many times a year was Peter coming over from the Czech Republic to work with the kids?
Richard came over at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, for a week or 2 weeks or something, just to work with the kids.
And this has been going on for years, Peter.
10
so,
years.
You know, it's like, you know, the coaches and the kids are hungry for knowledge. They're hungry for information. So it's about getting the right people there to get them the right knowledge and right information.
And it sounds like you're heading in a great direction because you're developing the grassroots. You've got the academy in the middle. You got the clubs, obviously. You've got the national teams, the World Baseball Classic, the Olympics. You've got, and I've met a lot of your players and coaches, some really young, smart people come from smart programs, come from major league programs also. But Peter or Eric, I want you to explain the next step. I want you to explain the academy to see the similarity with the academy that you guys have in Israel compared to others in Europe and around the world.
I just want to mention just one thing before that.
Yeah.
You know, we have the WBC team and we have the Olympic team now, which I'm extremely proud of. But if there's anything I may be more proud of, last year our U18 team, our under 18 guys, won the European Championship B pool, won the qualifiers for the European Championship. And that's the first time local guys raised in Israel, raised in our program, guys who grew up here, went to the academy, were able to come together as a team and do so well. I mean, our national teams, our adult national teams, the WBC team and the Olympic team have other ex-American players or American Israeli players on their teams who join us for these national team tournaments. But this U18 team was all local kids.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That shows how successful it's been.
Absolutely. That sounds awesome. And now these young kids, and this is important with baseball anywhere in the world, they got to have a goal, as you're talking about. Now there's a goal now at 18U. There's a goal, you know, college baseball, high school, even in the States. I mean, these constant goals keeps them in the game. So talk a little bit about the academy, how that system's set up.
The academy is basically the top players from the age of 16 to 18 because at 18 they go to the Army. So the 15 years old to 18 years old, there's 25 guys. They come twice a week to our main location, which is just outside of Tel Aviv. It's called the Baptist Village. It's the only lighted field in Israel that has lights there. It's a decent high school field. It's the only field in Israel that's like that. They come there twice a week. They get a lot of education there from two of the best coaches in Israel. They have other coaches that come, visiting coaches that always come there and talk to them and deal with them. And that's the academy. That's just the academy for coaches training, for them to be trained. Afterwards, they go to the different national teams, if it's the U18 team, if it's the U16 team, whatever team they might belong to, and they get additional training. But that extra effort, that extra training, and some kids travel an hour and a half, 2 hours each direction to get there.
Wow.
Kids who have to come from Jerusalem, the Jerusalem areas to get to that place. It's not the easiest location in Israel, not with the best transportation, but it's the best field that we have. And they're there, they're dedicated, they want to come out there, they want to be there.
Eric, I mean, we're going to get to the Olympics and how you guys got there. Talk a little bit about what you're telling players. You know, everybody's in a lockdown. I should have got probably this at the beginning. You're in a lockdown. What are you telling players they should be doing just in case? Because, you know, possibly when it opens up, you want to start practicing. And even in practice, you know, you're going to start, you know, gearing that thing up a little bit. And I'm talking about young kids, anybody in programs, even in the U.S., what should young kids be doing?
What we're doing here at my facility, and then, you know, pretty much every level, I mean, we're staying engaged. You know, they're on lockdown. They're seeing their families every day, you know, maybe a FaceTime here and there, but it's real important to keep the people in your life close to you and positive influences. So their baseball coach, their team, we run virtual classes, virtual baseball classes daily. We run virtual strength and conditioning classes 3 or 4 times a week for the boys and girls in our travel program. For me, there are 3 parts to this game. And as I said to you, again, this beautiful game that we all fell in love with has so much to do with life on a daily basis. So for me, there are 3 different things that we have to take care of: the mental, the emotional, and the physical. And for me, I wake up early in the morning. I'll either go on to, there's a great app called Calm, which is about a 10-minute meditation. I'll go on to Headspace, which is another one. So I'll just kind of get my head, you know, right. You know, even for me, I mean, there are days, you know, you're depressed. There are people dying around us. I'm 30 miles from New York City. Yeah. My daughter's a nurse in New York City.
Oh, God bless her.
Yeah, and you know, it can get depressing after a while. So it's making sure that I'm feeling good and my head is okay. And then I'm out there with the kids, showing the kids what I need them doing. It may only be working off fatigue. It may be doing visualization drills, seeing myself on the field, feeling the ball in my hand, feeling what grips I'm going to throw. When I can get out on the field and I'm in the batter's box for the first time, you know, what pitches am I looking for to hit my first at bat of the year? And just trying to keep them engaged. Peter, there's only so much we can do physically. Some kids have some equipment, some kids don't have equipment. So we're trying to figure out for both, you know, whether it's taking a rolled up pair of socks and throwing it against your wall if you don't have equipment, or doing wall squats and you know, sitting by the TV and working on your grips so that changeup just feels comfortable in my hand. We're trying to keep them engaged on a daily basis. Some days it's easier than others, but the social aspect and seeing them and having them see you, who, you know, you're a positive influence to these kids. It's important. It's really important.
Absolutely. Hey, Isaac Hess says the best Israeli player, Blake Galen. Well, we'll let you guys debate that one. I was thinking, Eric, and I was thinking about this because yesterday I had my good friend on, childhood friend, hockey coach with the NHL, and we were talking. I said, it'd be kind of cool. Some of the countries where they don't have a lot of game experience, it'd be kind of cool to get on Zoom. And Zoom, you can put a game on Zoom. Watch that game and then discuss the game as it goes on.
Sure.
So that way they can kind of learn the game. Great time to do that now. Listen, Pete, this is the big elephant in the room, I call it. Okay, we hear it all the time with the World Baseball Classic, the Olympic qualifier. It doesn't matter, anything. You hear, well, there's not all national team players are from that country. You and I and Eric understand why there's foreign players playing in the World Baseball Classic in the Olympics. I say Israeli Americans, why there is that. We understand it, but I want you to explain it to our audience because sometimes we get that question, or not sometimes, a lot of times.
First of all, you have to differentiate between the WBC and national tournaments or the Olympic tournament, okay? Because the WBC has their own heritage rule. And basically it says that anybody who can get citizenship for your country can play for your country, even if he doesn't have citizenship at that time, okay? Israel is extremely unique because Israel is the only country in the world that allows people not that have Israeli heritage, but have Jewish heritage, okay? Here's a mix of a nation and a religion. To be Jewish is to be a religion, but it's also to have a heritage. It's also to be have a history, be a certain tribe of people who've been around for over 3,000 years. So basically any Jewish person anywhere in the world can play for Team Israel in the WBC. The Israel Law of Return states that anybody who has a grandparent who's Jewish can become a citizen of Israel. It's what's called making aliyah. So basically for the WBC, we had guys like Sean Green, we had guys like Jock Peterson. They were all playing with each other for us, even though they're not Israeli citizens, but they are Jewish. And I had to prove to MLB, by the way, that they were Jewish and they could qualify to get Israeli citizenship. And that wasn't easy. That was a little bit difficult to do that. There's all kinds of qualifications and ways you can prove that people are Jewish. When it comes to national team tournaments, and the Olympics is a national team tournament, you have to have that country's nationality. You have to have Israeli citizenship. You have to have an Israeli passport. And in order to do that, you have to do a process, which is every country is a little bit different. For Israel, for an American or a Jewish person to get Israeli citizenship, as I said before, there's the law of return, which states that anybody who has a grandparent can get Israeli citizenship. But it's not an easy process. You've got to go through a process. You've got to fill out a lot of forms. You've got to get letters. You've got to get FBI reports. It's all got to be sent over here. It's all got to be inspected, checked, verified. The person has to come over to Israel. He has to spend a few days of interviews with the Interior Ministry. And if all is well, then he gets Israeli citizenship. And by the way, you can have dual citizenship. I came to Israel 35 years ago to live here, and I maintain my American citizenship, and I also have Israeli citizenship. So you're allowed to have dual citizenship. What we did was after the WBC in 2017, and our success in the WBC in 2017, I realized that I had a team here that I needed to take advantage of the players who were there on the WBC team. In the end, we came in, we were the last team to qualify, and we ended up coming in sixth place. So in 2017, 6 months after the WBC, we went to the European Championship to the B pool, where you were the coach of the Bulgarian team.
Yeah,
Yes, you were the
partial coach.
Partial coach. That was in Belgrade.
Yes.
And we came in second place to Austria in the end of the tournament. And because we came in second place, Austria went up to the A pool. And I said to Eric, I met Eric about 6 months after that, and I met him in New York. And I said, listen, Eric, if we want to have a chance to get to the Olympics, first we've got to get to the A pool. We've got to win the B pool, get to the A pool. So my goal is in 2019 is the next B pool. We bring some guys on Aliyah. We bring some guys to get citizenship in Israel. Bring some of the players that were on the WBC team. They'll get citizenship. In June of 2019, we go to Bulgaria. We go to the lovely town of Blagoevgrad in southern Bulgaria. We go there. We win the B pool. Once we win the B pool, we have to have a playoff against the other B pool division winner. Once we finish that, we go to the A pool. We've got to be in the top 5 in the A pool. Then we go to the European, African Olympic qualifiers. A cinch. It's easy. No problem.
And we're going to talk about that in a second, because I think that's where we're heading. But before we head there, to either one of you guys, because I think I have a good understanding of this, and I believe in it. You mentioned some benefits about having Israeli Americans on the team. And the benefits are obviously Israeli players are playing with them. They're learning from them. There's a lot of great benefits. But I also believe that the reason you need it is because you're building a foundation at the bottom, but you're also trying to build a foundation at the top. So you need that mixture to compete for a while, because you're looking for that also money from the government or the Olympic Committee. And on top of it, is the goal later on, I would think, again, I'm just speaking out loud, I would think the goal later on is to diminish the number of players that are coming from other countries, Israeli Americans, and then build up, obviously, 2. But right now, you need to combine those 2. Am I wrong, or am I heading in the wrong direction?
No. You're definitely heading in the right direction. As I mentioned before, our U18 team won the European qualifiers last summer. Those guys are now looking at the Olympic players and saying in 8 years, when baseball comes back to the Olympics, because it won't be 4 years from now, but it'll be 8 years from now, they want to be on that Olympic team. They want to be the guys who are playing on that Olympic team. And that's their goal. That's what they see as that happening. I mean, today we've got 4 native Israelis who were born here on the Olympic team among the 22 other American Israeli players.
Right.
And it's important to have those guys there, because they're there, they're learning from them. These are guys who are in college in the States, and they're learning from these guys. And it's important to have them there to raise the top of the pyramid. Okay, we're filling up the bottom of the pyramid, but we've got to get that top of the pyramid going up there. Also for funding, it's crucial for funding, but also to give the guys in the bottom of the pyramid a goal of where to reach. And that's exactly what you mentioned is exactly what we're doing. And I see Eric also wants to mention something.
Yeah,
go ahead,
Peter,
Eric.
if you don't
Jump
mind,
in.
I also just want to add one thing to this. This was not Israel only doing this, right? Every team that we played against.
Absolutely.
The Irish team, 90% of the guys were from the United States. They got Irish citizenship. Greeks, the same thing,
Yes.
Austria, Switzerland. I mentioned my son plays at Columbia. One of our players played at Columbia. One of the shortstop of Great Britain was a teammate at Columbia.
Yeah.
So everybody
Good point.
is having their U.S. brothers gain dual citizenship so that they can also represent their home countries. I don't think that baseball yet is the number 1 sport in Bulgaria, Serbia, or right, or Greece. Right. So everybody in trying to do this, is basically doing the same thing. It's just that my GM was aggressive, got it done, and here we are.
You know what's interesting, Eric? Tell the audience, and both of you, obviously, we're going to talk about the Olympic qualifier, but has it sunk in that you're going to the Olympics?
Peter, listen.
This is the Olympics.
Peter Kurz and I sat in a diner in 2016, and we started talking about making a run at the Olympics. And we're looking at each other, and I'm like, like, is he kidding here? And after meeting you in Serbia in 2017, realistically, the goal was, as Peter talked about, getting out of the B pool. We wanted to get Israel to the A pool for the first time in the history of Israel baseball. And one thing about me as a coach, and Peter can attest to this, I'll never sit here and talk to you about tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. I'm going to talk to you about today, today's game. Once that game is over, we can discuss tomorrow. So that was my whole outlook on this every day. I never change who I am based on a score or an outcome or who my opponent is. Once we qualified, and I got back to the States, and my friends are making a big deal about it, and every couple of days I pinch myself and say, hey, is this really happening? And the answer is yes. We were able to do all those things that Pete talked about, and taking it, one game at a time, and one inning, and we made it happen.
And we're talking about, hey, Peter, you guys, you're all over MLB Network. There's interviews of players. Now, there's a lot going on. That's got to bring up baseball big time in Israel.
Well, let me mention one thing. The GM can bring the players, but if the manager doesn't know how to manage them well, they're not going to win.
They're not
going to win. That's what this manager has done. So he's done a really great job. What I wanted to mention was it's gotten more exposure here in Israel. There's no doubt about it. We're on what we call on the map here in Israeli sports. It hasn't gotten enough. I thought the WBC 3 years ago, when we went from nothing, from the qualifiers, ESPN called us the Jamaican bobsled team.
Mm-hmm.
We were the 16th team to qualify, and in the end, we beat Korea, Taiwan, the Netherlands, and Cuba.
Yeah.
And we beat all those teams. We were 4-0. Afterwards, we landed on Earth, and we came in 6th place. But I came back to Israel from Tokyo, and I said to myself, this is it. Baseball is going to be huge here in Israel, and nobody was talking about it. The people in the sports world knew about it, but nobody else was really talking about it because the WBC was okay. It's far away. It's the World Championship. The Olympics is different. The Olympics is big, and Israel has 9 medals in the Olympics. That's it, and they're all individual medals. Israel's never had a team sport. The whole year leading up to be qualifying for the Olympics, I was updating the Israeli IOC, the Israeli Olympic Committee, about what we were doing. And they were saying, okay, sounds good. Get to the next level. Win the B pool, get to the A pool. We'll talk about it again. Win the A pool, get to the qualifiers. We'll talk about it again. A year ago, they sent in a form to the Olympic Committee in Japan. What sports do they think Israel would qualify for? And they put in judo because we have really good judoists, and they put in windsurfing, and they put in baseball.
Wow.
And the Japanese Olympic organization, the IOC, sent the form back and said, there's no way Israel's going to qualify in baseball. And when I got back after the qualifiers and I went to see the guys in the Olympic Committee, first of all, they were thrilled. They hugged me. This was before the coronavirus. They were hugging me and they were saying how fantastic it is, but now I created a problem for them because they had a 55-person delegation. And all of a sudden I added 24 more players.
Oh, yeah.
So I was adding 50% more to their delegation. Unfortunately, Israel has not had a government for about a year and a half because we've had 3 different elections. Now, hopefully, there'll be a government, and hopefully, we'll get some more funding. But that's a whole different story.
Awesome. Eric, take us through the Olympic qualifier now, the highlights, the lowlights, everything.
When you look back on things like this in life, there's never any lowlights. So I'm going to tell you, we get to Bulgaria, and we're in this just gorgeous countryside, and this amazing Field of Dreams type baseball field just appears on the side of the road. And again, we took care of our business. We beat Greece and Serbia and Bulgaria. We had a tough game against Russia. We came back and beat Russia. Took care of Ireland and then dispatched Russia in the finals to get to Lithuania. We then have to go to Lithuania and play them a 2 out of 3 series, which was, this is like a great memory. They hadn't played baseball on this field in 5 years. This field was literally in the middle of a horse track in Lithuania. and the coach, who's, you know, just a wonderful guy, had the entire delegation in Lithuania raking and tilling and building dugouts within 48 hours to be able to house a 2-out-of-3 series. So we took care of Lithuania in 2 games, you know, pretty well. And now it's getting real. We accomplished goal 1, which was to get out of the A pool.
Quickly, Eric, I'd like to ask you, before we get to the next part, your main message to your club as the leaders, the manager, right before you start this, to stay focused. What is it?
Well, to stay focused, you know, most of the time, Pete, you're dealing with older, more professional guys. I think the one thing that everybody bought into was team. You know, what did it take for us to be successful? Us. And we're not representing ourselves. You're not representing a team, whether it be an MLB team or an independent team. You're representing our motherland. This is for our people. This is for our country, and whatever it took to get it done. You know, it's kind of corny today, but we talk a lot about, you know, next guy up, passing the torch, and that was the mentality of our team all summer. You know, we had a different hero every day. We had somebody on the mound that, you know, just came in and shut the doors. We had a guy that, you know, come up, get a big hit, or you know, force action by getting hit by a pitch in a big spot. So everybody was really up for the task of just doing what the team needed that day. At that point, you know, we got out of the B pool for the first time. We get to go to Germany, which was very emotional for a Jewish team.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and this was probably one of the heaviest, most emotional parts, you know, for me, just based upon history. You know, 50, 60, 70 years ago, you know, we wouldn't have been allowed there. We would have been killed just for being there. And so it just added more to the experience of being able to be part of this thing and proudly wear my blue and white playing against Germany in Germany. I mean, it was just crazy stuff. So the way our schedule landed, you know, we knew that it was going to be 5 out of 12 teams that were going to make it out of Germany to get to Italy. Our schedule was what it was. We won the first 4 games, and we kind of know we're guaranteed 5th place at that point. I'm not going to say, you know, I let off the gas pedal, because I never played that way. But we weren't pushing as hard against the better teams. I didn't want to show them that much. My coaches and I sat down and we thought we had a shot at that point to compete with anybody. I'm not going to say win, but we thought we could compete with anybody if we put our best players out there, and they gave us what we needed. So we started out 4-0. We lost the next 3 games to Spain, the Netherlands, and Italy in 3 pretty decent games. But then we become the 5th seed going to Italy, and we get to go to as one of 6 teams in the Olympic qualifier. And the last 3 teams to beat us in Germany were the first 3 teams we had in Italy. So Spain put it on us pretty good in Germany. And that was the first game that we had. Joey Wagman, you know, all he did that day, Joey was a AA pitcher with the Oakland Athletics. All he did was throw a complete game shutout against Spain. After Spain had put up like 16 runs against us a week before. And we beat Spain 3-0. And the next day we had the Netherlands. Now the Netherlands, I guess, were 8th or 9th in the world at that point. Tremendous team and well coached. And they beat us, I think, 13-4, you know, 4 or 5 days prior in Germany. And John Muscat, ex-Cincinnati Reds pitcher, whose arm wasn't great, said, "Coach, I'm going to give you everything I got today. I'm going to leave it out on the field." and he threw 4 2/3, and we put up 8 runs and shut them down and beat them 8-1. And at that point we said, guys, I mean, this is getting real right now, and we've got a shot to do this. The next game is Italy in Italy. And, you know, you talk about emotions running high, and Italy is an incredibly talented team and an incredibly well-coached team. And the score is 2-2 in the 8th inning. First and third, 1 out, Mitch Glasser puts down one of the greatest safety squeezes I've ever seen in my life. We go ahead 3-2, and then we score another 5 runs. Wow. And we go on to beat Italy 8-2 on their home soil. Well, now it's pretty much we control our own destiny, right? I mean, we beat the guys that we needed to beat, and tomorrow we have the Czech Republic, and we had beaten them in Germany. And just the way this game, you know, does, and it always humbles you. Yeah. The next day we show up, and the Czech Republic just had our number. I mean, we competed. We'd score 1, they'd score 3, and every time we felt like we were scratching and clawing, they would just shut us down, and we ended up losing that game 7-4. The only rah-rah part of this for me, Peter, was we were at that point the only team to control our own destiny because we had beat the other teams head-to-head. The Czech Republic had lost twice already, so we would have had to have lost twice for them to have us head-to-head. So we're on the bus the next day, headed to the stadium to play South Africa. And I stood up on the bus, and I basically looked at the guys, and I said, guys, you know, this is just a great spot to be in. Again, we control our own destiny here. And if you guys just take care of your stuff, we leave the hotel as a baseball team, and we will return as Olympians. And the bus just goes crazy. People are banging bats on the roof, and guys are just nuts, out of their mind nuts. And poor South Africa just never knew what was going to hit them that day. We ended up, you know, the emotion was so high that, you know, we ended up beating them. I think it was 11-1 in 8 innings, and here we are. And here we are. And now, you know, Peter Kurz, you know, has to deal with me for another whole year.
Yeah, and Pete, you know, I've been there as a GM. You know, in those critical situations, you know, you're either in, you know, in the stands or in the dugout. You know, how did you handle all this?
First of all, take that last 10 minutes and give that all to ESPN and let them put them on ESPN and run that all the time there. That was a great monologue. I loved it.
Especially leave the hotel and come back Olympians. That's awesome. Let's put that on shirts.
Listen, I, as the GM, I don't stay in the dugout at all during the game. I'll be in the dugout and the clubhouse with the guys before the game. But during the game, I let them be on their own, and I can't sit still. I mean, I'm just in the stands. Every inning, I've got to be somewhere else. I'm schmoozing a little bit with the crowd, seeing the people there. But I remember at the end of that game, first of all, Eric put in Shlomo Lipitz, the great Shlomo Lipitz, who I mentioned 21 years ago. Yeah. Was an 18-year-old in the Army, and he came and he coached that team that I took overseas. He's been on 35 national teams, so Eric put him in to pitch the last inning there, and it was incredible to see Shlomo out there. When I was there, my son was also there, and I was in tears. I mean, I was just, you know, all the emotion and everything that had come out after being together with Eric for the last 2 years together on this road. And listen, a lot of the guys who I convinced to come and become citizens and get citizenship in Israel didn't come because they thought they were going to make it to the Olympics. They had no idea. I mean, I told them about the plan and everything, and they were like, okay, whatever. Yeah, okay. You know, we want to, you know, we believe in Israel. We want to be Israelis. We want to come see the country. We want to come be there. We want to contribute to building up baseball in Israel. And they all have done that. I mean, they've all been there at least once or twice and come and given clinics and everything. But they all bought into it. They really bought into it. And Eric, listen, I mean, now I've got not just 3 more months together with Eric. I've got another year and 3 months because they delayed the Olympics, postponed the Olympics. But I love to be with Eric. He's fantastic. He's an amazing coach, amazing manager. He's a great motivator for the team. He knows what to say, when to say it, when to leave them alone, when to motivate them. He knows exactly what to do, the right buttons to push. He's perfect out there as the team leader, as the field leader. And, I'm just there and enjoying the game, enjoying it. My stomach is churning all the time. I'm probably getting ulcers all the time. But that's the life of a GM.
Eric, and I mentioned, like to educate coaches. This is going to be a great learning experience for coaches because you went through a series where you lost 3 games in a row, lost another one later. Teaching experience, what did you tell the coach or the players at that time? Because that's not easy. You just lost 3 to 3 top teams.
Well, I mean, again, Peter, going back to just the way I coach and you don't know me that well. I never get up and I never get down. You couldn't tell the score of the game if you were reading my face. And I don't play poker, but I probably should. Because I've always felt that the team either really positively or really negatively will work off of my vibes. And one of the things that goes along with that is I never learn anything about anything if I'm successful all the time, right? The teaching experiences come from failure. And the beauty of this game is you're going to fail a whole lot more than you're going to succeed. And what we were able to really do was take some of the things that we were successful at during those games. Just because we lost didn't mean we weren't successful. They were more successful those days, right? So now it's being able to formulate a plan with, our advanced scout and coaches and, what are guys' weaknesses and strengths and see if we can attack those and maybe they're going to attack us a little bit earlier in a count. So, normally I like guys working counts deep, depending on the situation of the game. But if that's not the case and we learn that they're going to attack early, I want guys jumping on stuff early. So one of my favorite words in the English dictionary is adjustment. And I think, again, going back to life, and now with, the corona virus and everything, we're making adjustments every day of our lives. And for me, again, it's what keeps me incredibly motivated about this game. And those are the things that we did. We never got down after a game. We never got down after a loss, but we never got too up when we won either, right? We were very businesslike, very professional, other than winning the trophy. Once you win the trophy, I don't care what the guys do. But I want to be businesslike. I don't want any fodder to be put on the locker room, for the other team the next day. And, I just want the guys to handle themselves professionally.
Were there some times where you did some different things, unique, a learning experience for coaches, something fun, something to break the ice, maybe the team was tense, maybe the team, you just saw that they were down a little bit, again, a learning experience for coaches because they all go through it, whether it's little league or major league.
So one of the greatest experiences from a coaching aspect for me probably happened in the first game against Russia. The game ended in a tie. And we went right to international tiebreak rules. And started with runners on first and second, nobody out. Russia bunts. My pitcher fields the ball, spins, throws the ball to third base. Really was out. They call him safe. I start arguing, but I can't push it because I can't get thrown out at this point. It would do no good. And controversially, Russia scores 4 runs in the top of the 10th.
Wow.
Okay. Now, that takes away a lot of my options, right? I can't bunt. I'm not giving up an out there first and second. So, again, we talked about it. We remained calm. We had a job to do. And I'm not going to bore you with each guy, but and because I remember it, I could tell you what each guy did at that point. But long story short, we loaded the bases with no outs, down 2 because we came back, and Blake Galen, my player who that gentleman mentioned to you, hit an absolute missile up the middle. And I decided on contact that I was sending the runner on second base because at worst I would still have a runner in scoring position. The center fielder bobbled the ball. We walk off on Russia. We came back with 5 in the bottom of the 10th without recording it out.
Wow.
Because we never got down. We never got emotional. We weren't going to let the umpires or the uncontrollable define us. And that day for me was a catapult to show the team what we were capable of as a team.
Oh, awesome. Love it, man. I love hearing that stuff. Pete, what's the future now when it comes to the development of the sport in Israel? What are some goals? What are some things you're working on, to grow the game or develop it? Also, and the Olympics too, as far as any goals, what you'd be working on.
Listen, the immediate future is that hopefully on Sunday, because here the work week begins on Sunday, hopefully Sunday we can begin practicing, because that's what we've been trying to do. They gave the approval that we can have, I think it's 9 players on a field with 1 coach.
Good.
Obviously checking temperature, making sure there's no contact, everybody 2 meters apart, their own equipment and everything. But that's the first step, because hopefully we can get back to playing baseball. We want the youth to get up there, the kids to get up there to practice. We play all year round. We play from September to June. So now, and now is the season. Now is when the games from September to February are usually practices, and then February to June are games. So I don't know if we're going to get games in, but hopefully practicing, having the guys practice from now until July or August will extend the season just as they're doing everywhere else. Next stage is what's happening with our professional players. The guys who are in college, who came back to Israel, and some of the professional guys in the minor leagues or the independent leagues, who I have no idea what's going to happen with them, if they're going to play this year or not play this year, and that will dictate how they'll prepare for the Olympics and the WBC as well. If Major League Baseball comes on board, they'll probably extend the season to November. I assume the WBC might be delayed for a year. It might not be in 2021, but it might be in 2022, because I can't imagine MLB season going until November and then coming back 3 months later to play the WBC. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing we're preparing for. We're preparing for WBC in 2021, but also in 2022. Sam Fold is the manager of the WBC team. He's out there recruiting players now. We're talking to Alex Bregman. Hopefully Alex Bregman will come on board and be one of our players, be the star player for that team. But we're looking at other major leaguers. There's 12 Jewish major leaguers, looking to recruit them, to get them on the team. And then from there, to see who else can fit in with us. Just as I mentioned, 7 weeks ago, Ian Kinsler came to Israel, became an Israeli citizenship, got his Israeli passport. He'll be our newest member of the WBC and the Olympic team, because he now has an Israeli passport. So hopefully with the Olympics in 2021, our plan last year, which is just copy paste right now, is to come together after in the middle of the season next year, the beginning of July. Again, some of the guys are playing minor league baseball, some of them are playing independent baseball, some of them are not playing baseball at all. Ian, Danny Valencia are both retired. They're practicing, they're working on their hitting, but they'll come to a mini camp that we'll have the beginning of July. We'll have a mini camp for about 2 or 3 weeks in the Northeast United States before the Olympics. We'll be barnstorming around New York, Cape Cod League, Baltimore, that area, to play some games. We want to play at least 10 or 12 games together with other teams to get the guys in shape, to get the guys playing, to get the guys hitting. From there, we're on to Tokyo, have a few games in Tokyo, and get a medal in the Olympics. That's our goal, to get a medal in the Olympics, because nobody remembers those who came back from the Olympics without a medal. Our goal is definitely to get a medal. We're one of 6 teams in the Olympics, and we want that medal.
Yeah, and the first step is getting there, and we have 2 teams in the Olympics so far who have never been in the Olympics before, Mexico and Israel. Eric, through this whole experience, the getting to the final game, as coaches, we're always learning something. What did you learn that can help you when it comes to the Olympics now?
I don't ever take anything for granted. I don't look past anybody or anything. Stay humble, believe in myself, be confident in who you are and what your training was, what got you here, and trying to control on such a big stage, trying to control your emotion, and like I said before, you know, the mental part, and remembering that it's not always the final play. It's the journey, the whole journey that has gotten us here. And at the end of the day, we're doing something that we love. We're playing this unbelievable game. So it's not life and death. So I'm trying to keep it light, and at the same time making sure that they understand what the goals are.
Fantastic. Pete, you want to add anything?
Come out and watch us play. That's all.
All right, guys. Listen, I really appreciate it. This has been outstanding. And we're going to do another one. But what I want to do is just thank both of you for being on the show, and thank, you know, because, you know, we've got two teams now that have been on the show, Mexico and Israel, that are going to the Olympics, that have never been there before. But also, you know, we're trying to spread the word about international baseball too. It's such a great sport. It's, you know, I've been in it 35 years, and it's I think it's the one I know the most, and I just love it like you guys do. So I know, and to watch coaches from Israel, kids from Israel, or any country, they have so much passion for the game. They love the game. It's incredible. So it's fun to watch that grow. So I know you guys are doing a fantastic job growing the game. So I just want to thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Pete.
All right, folks, that is Peter Kurz. He is the man behind the scenes for Israeli baseball, WBC, and the Olympics, the general manager, and Eric Holtz, the manager who got them there. Of course, his ball club, an outstanding club, got him to the Olympics. Now it's time for the gold medal. I want to thank both of them. Thank the lineup group, media. We have our producer, Brian Kroc. Thank you very much. lineupmediagroup.com. Check it out. Also, special thanks, obviously, to all our guests in the U.S. and around the world. Without you, we don't have a show. Please keep spreading the show. We're getting great results. So I want to thank you all. Remember, there's a show that loves to interview baseball's best coaching minds who love to challenge the status quo, and we love to spread the word about international baseball and the different development that's going on in different countries. So we're thrilled to have both these guests, and we want to thank everybody. And remember, we will see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock Central Time, live on Facebook. Major League umpire Larry Young, Major League supervisor. Well, let's talk rules. Let's get people on that show listening, because it's important to understand the rules of the game of baseball and how to maintain a relationship with umpires. Very important. So thanks, folks, for joining us, and we'll see you on tomorrow's show.